lied about my body count and my best friend told him the truth. Now he's making me hate myself. I lied to the one person I thought would never stop loving me, and now he's showing me exactly how wrong I was. I needed to vent. I don't know if I'm here for advice or just to get some things off my chest, but either way, here I am, feeling so sad and I'm just so broken. To start with, my name is Beatrice. I'm 25 years old and I lied to my boyfriend John, who is 27 years old, about my body count. I know. Lying is wrong, but it was never meant to be this huge betrayal. I didn't want to lose him and I was terrified he'd judge me if he knew my actual past. I just wanted to be the right person for him, if that makes any sense. It wasn't even some crazy high number or anything. But I've had some rough times in my life and I've made decisions I regret. When we first started dating, conversations led to conversations and he asked about my past relationships and body count. So I told him the body count that I thought would be acceptable to him. I could tell he was the type of guy who valued that stuff. He'd say things like he wanted a girl who's careful with herself and who doesn't just give herself away to anyone. I didn't want to lie, but I wanted to be that girl so badly for him even when I wasn't. I also didn't want to see that look of disappointment or judgment on his face, so I just lied. And honestly, I thought it was harmless. I thought it was my past, and he didn't need to know all the details. It wasn't like I was unfaithful or had any exes that he needed to worry about at the moment. I loved him, and I thought that was enough. Anyways, I had told John my body count was 4, and he said his own was 3, and we had an understanding. We both knew that we had past lives before we found each other, and as long as those lives didn't have any terrible consequences on our current lives, then there was no problem. So my body count wasn't the only thing he asked me about. That day was the kind of day for everyone to bring their past selves to the table for all to see. He wasn't just interested in my body count. He wanted to know who they are and how it happened. But I couldn't tell him those details. My intimacy escapades were wider than the jungle itself. I had exes who wanted to try out new and crazy things, and I was open to them because I loved the excitement. And I had things to do with people I didn't even date. The things we did and the places we did them were a bit too extreme. And I wasn't about to tell the man I was in a relationship with all those things. It would change the way he looked at me. He was a decent guy, and I knew he wouldn't stand for my adventurous past. But then he told me about his past, from his struggles with intimacy to his addiction to it. But that he fought it and came out on top. It was clear that this man had poured out his heart and his past, leaving nothing there. Yet I couldn't. Perhaps it was because of how extreme my life was. And maybe it was just self-sabotage, because after all I had done in my last lives, who would want to be in a serious, committed relationship with me? But then my best friend, let's call her Jenny, came into the picture. We've been best friends for years, and she knows everything about me. She was there during my darker times, and she's always been my rock. And I love her like a sister. I thought I could trust her with anything, and I thought she'd have my back until she made my life a living hell. It all started on a Friday night when John and I were hosting a small get-together at our apartment. It was nothing big, just me, him, and my best friend Jenny and a couple of our mutual friends. We were all a little tipsy, just relaxing and laughing and sharing stories. At one point, someone suggested a game of Never Have I Ever. I could already feel my stomach knot up because I was scared of anything going wrong, given the fact that I have lied about some things to keep John and I together. You know the way some games can go from fun to uncomfortable with one wrong question? That's exactly what happened. I was hoping we'd keep it light, but of course they didn't. Jenny is always the one to get a bit too honest after a drink or two, and that day she threw out a classic when she said, "Never have I ever lied to my partner." And right after that, she threw me a playful side glance, and I felt my face heated up instantly. John looked over and he nudged me with a smirk and asked, "What's the biggest lie I've ever told?" He was teasing, not suspecting anything serious, but I was completely caught off guard. Jenny, who by then was a little too drunk and wasn't picking up on my discomfort, suddenly laughed and said I should not be shy, and that John wouldn't believe that I had lied about way worse things than he'd guessed. She grinned and was totally unaware of the storm that was brewing in that single sentence. I felt trapped, like everyone's eyes were on me, and I shot Jenny a look, silently begging her to stop, but she kept going and still thinking it was just harmless. She went on to say, "You would be surprised if you knew her actual body count." I let out an awkward laugh and said she is drunk and just spewing rubbish. But then, as if she knew what she was doing, she laughed again and said that I was the one lying and told him that my body count is 20, and suddenly I could see the shift in John's expression. The room went quiet and John's eyes locked onto mine, and for a split second, I thought maybe he understood that it was just a drunk statement and would brush it off, but he didn't. He was far from understanding. He started asking what Jenny meant by that, and I stammered, tried to play it off as a joke, but it was too late. Jenny was still giggling and talking about how I should tell him that truth until she noticed his face and the way I was shrinking back. Then she realized the weight of what she just said, and her face fell, and I could see the guilt setting in, but the damage was already done. She apologized that she didn't mean any harm, but she told him the truth. And the second she did, I saw the light go out in his eyes. Is it true? It was a simple question, but the way he asked it made my heart sink. At that moment, I knew that whatever trust we had was hanging by a thread, and no matter what I said next, that the thread was about to be cut. I felt the earth pulled out from under me like a rug. I didn't know what to answer. My mouth was open but couldn't produce anything. You know how they say that the brain comes up with thoughts as quickly as bare seconds? Mine couldn't come up with anything for the better part of a minute. And this just made everyone look at me like I was this crazy person. His stare was empty, almost like he was looking through me, like I wasn't sitting there. But I was right there, and I knew what that meant. He now saw me as someone he didn't even know. I was expecting a reaction of some kind, a tantrum. I didn't just expect it, I wanted him to. No, I needed him to. Because if he did, I'd at least believe that he'd get over it after he'd poured his heart out. But no, he didn't say anything. He just got up and told everyone that he was done playing. He walked off to the room, and Jenny quietly whispered that she was sorry. I didn't even have the time or concern to answer her. All I could think about was my boyfriend and our relationship. I quickly followed and asked him to just hear me out, that I needed to explain. He asked me what I needed to explain, and before I could even answer, he asked if it's so I'd feed him more lies. I froze. I could see that I had broken his trust, but I believed that what we had was strong enough to withstand this. After all, it was just one silly lie. Couples lie to each other all the time, and they are still happy together. I kept telling myself things to keep me from breaking down and to keep me sane enough to keep trying to win John back. Because if I'm being honest, I am nothing without him. I told him that it wasn't like that I didn't want to lie to him. He told me to stop, that he was disappointed and hurt, that he thought I was different. Those words sank deep into me. Did he compare me to the girls he felt were too loose? I told him that I was different, and that he was the perfect testament to that, because we had been in a relationship for quite some time now, and it is so clear that we love each other. But he didn't want to hear anything I had to say. He said he remembers asking me clearly what my body count was, and he even opened up to me about a dark time in his life too. But I couldn't develop the balls to do the same as him. That was when I made an even bigger mistake. I told him that I couldn't be open with him because he was a stuck-up fellow who liked things to be his way. But what I really meant was that he had principles which he would never go against. He shook his head and told me he was disappointed. Then he walked out. I was so terrified. My legs began to shake and I fell to the ground. I didn't even have the strength or will to do anything after that. Jenny came rushing in, but I told her I didn't want to hear anything she had to say. I was so mad at her that if she stayed there for one more second, I would do something that I would regret. She was angry that I sent her away in such a rude manner, but I didn't care. She and all our guests left, and I spent the whole day crying and regretting everything I had done. I kept trying to reach John's phone, but it was switched off. I was terrified that he had left me and was never coming back. But to my surprise, he came back the next morning. I was sleeping on the floor just a few steps away from the entrance door, so I woke up immediately. He opened the door. I quickly got up and tried to talk to him, but he said he was late for work. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't stop him, and he was clearly not in the mood to talk to me, so I let him be. I was late for work as well, and I had a very stupid idea. It was like I was just pulling these stupid thoughts from a rabbit hat. I don't know what made me think joining him in the bathroom was going to solve anything, but I was desperate, so I tried. I went to join him in the bathroom when he was half done. You should have seen the way he shouted at me. It was like a stranger walked in on him in the showers. All that was left was to pull the shower from its hold and use it to chase me out. I was so scared that I ran out of the bathroom like a thief that had been caught. He left for work and I did the same. I wasn't in mourning, but I might as well have been, because some of the people who came over were colleagues from my workplace, and we all know how fast rumors and gossip fly in a workspace. Everyone's eyes were on me from the moment I got into the office, and I really wanted the earth to swallow me, but unfortunately it didn't work that way. I went home, and the person I met there wasn't John, my boyfriend. I can't explain it, but I felt a large void that I can't explain. I cooked his favorite meal, but he looked so disgusted when I presented it to him. It was as though I had given him something disgusting to eat. He didn't speak to me, and it was like every day that came brought a whole new attitude that was so hard for me to keep up with. When I nearly lost my mind was when he got dressed one night and was heading out. I quickly asked him where he was going, and he said he didn't have to explain anything to me, but he was going to see two of his friends. I knew them, and I knew they were both out of the country. I was worried, so I asked him to tell me the truth. I really wasn't insinuating that he was lying or anything. I just wanted him to seriously tell me where he was actually going because I was concerned. He picked offense with my words and asked how I could dare accuse him of lying when I'm the world-recognized mascot of liars. His words hit me so hard that I was brought to tears. He said that his friends arrived in the country that afternoon and he was going to meet them. He told me that he wasn't me, that he doesn't lie, especially not to the people he loves. He left with a tough frown that broke me all over. But here were two things to take from his words that evening. One was that he despised me for lying, and the second was that he still loved me. Because why else would he still come back home every day after work? Why else was he still living in that house with me? Besides, he hadn't even broken up with me. He still loved me, but I think my sin was too big to ignore. So I decided to put in more of the work, to show concern and care to him. I was trying so desperately to show him that I was the same person he fell in love with, and that if he could forgive me, everything would be fine. But then he came back one day after a jog, and he had a demented smile on his face. To my own surprise, he began packing some clothes into a small bag. The only hope I had seemed to be slipping away from me. I was terrified that I tried to stop him. I asked him why he was doing what he was doing, and he told me that he just ran into my cousin. My heart dipped. I don't have a cousin. We ran into one of my exes one time, and out of the fright of John discovering that this guy was someone I had been freakishly intimate with, I lied. I lied that he was my cousin. My ex saw that I was lying. He was kind and smart enough to go along with the lie. Although after that, he kept trying to get me to meet up with him for us to sleep together. John said that he playfully had a little chat with my cousin, and he realized how big of a liar I was, and that my supposed cousin thought I had confessed everything to him, so he confessed as well. I nearly died. Right there, I knew that whatever hope that was left had taken a leap out the window. I hated myself so much at that moment. John asked me what else I'm lying about. I couldn't even open my mouth. He was so furious and scolded me to open my mouth and talk, but I couldn't. He grabbed his bag and said he couldn't be around me. Then he left the house. I cried the whole day, not having anyone to talk to. I couldn't talk to Jenny because I was still too mad at her, so I laid on the floor crying my eyes out. I couldn't sleep that night. I had hoped that he would come back the next morning, but he didn't. I hated myself so much. My ex, who confessed everything, called me to tell me what happened. I was so mad at him, and instead of apologizing, he told me that since my boyfriend had found out everything, he must have broken up with me, so I should come to him so we'd hook up. I nearly smashed my phone into a wall. I just blocked his number and deleted it as well. I took a week off work so I'd be home when John comes back, but to my own disappointment, he didn't. I don't know what to do. I'm so terrified. I don't know what to lose him. I can't go through this life alone. I really need him. Update. Hey Reddit, I'm back. And things have only gotten worse since I last posted. I don't even know if anyone's truly understand where I'm coming from, but this platform feels like the only place I can pour my heart out. It's hard to admit, but maybe I was wrong all along. I may have downplayed just how terrible what I did is. I'm the one who messed everything up, and now I'm paying for it in ways I never imagined. At first, I thought he was just hurt, that he'd eventually forgive me. And he actually came back home after almost 2 weeks away from the house. I was so happy that he did, and I thought this meant he was no longer as angry as he was before, and that maybe he was now ready to forgive me for everything. But it's been over a week since he came back, and I've started realizing that he doesn't plan on forgiving me at all. In fact, it's like instead of breaking up with me, he's set on breaking me down bit by bit. His anger runs deep, and he has decided to show me just how little I mean to him now. It's so scary how love can turn to hate so quickly. I think he sees my lie as the ultimate betrayal, but still it doesn't make up for the way he has been treating me. I came home late the other day and I found him sleeping on the couch in the living room. I woke him up and asked him to go to the bed in the room, but he refused. You won't believe what he said to me. He said that he didn't want to sleep in a bed that reminded him of the lies I'd told or with the liar herself. It was clear that I couldn't change his mind, so I went to the room while he continued his sleep on the couch. I was alone in that room, and I covered myself in a blanket while I cried in regret all night. He said he didn't care if I was uncomfortable, that I should get used to it, and that he's just showing me what honesty looks like. When I asked what that meant, he told me that he wouldn't lie, that he would do something when he wouldn't do it. You won't even be able to guess what the worst part is? He doesn't even seem angry anymore. And no, that's not a good thing. It's like he's past that. He's calm, almost smug, and it terrifies me. I'm realizing now that he's not just getting over it. He's punishing me. And deep down, I wonder if I deserve it. I keep telling myself it's my fault, and that if I hadn't lied, he wouldn't have to hurt me like this. I keep asking myself why I lied in the first place. Yeah, he was a wonderful guy, very sweet and loving, and I didn't want to lose him. But the situation is now so annoying that it makes me wonder if it's the same person that asked me to be his girlfriend at a burger place with the question drawn with mustard and ketchup on a plate. It's almost impossible to believe that. Now every day feels like I'm walking around with a target on my back and like I've invited this treatment into my life. And maybe I did. Maybe I should have been more honest. Should have respected him enough to tell him the truth from the start. Maybe I should have taken the risk and trusted him to do whatever he felt was right with the information. If I had told him back then, maybe he would have seen it as me trusting him with a part of myself that people won't normally let others know about. But even if he didn't see it that way, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. Because we never would have dated, and at that time, I wasn't this in love with him where his barely raising voice feels like pin on my skin. But as much as I regret lying, I don't know how much longer I can live like this. I don't know how to escape this toxic cycle I've put myself in. Maybe there is no way out, and I don't know if I should keep trying to win him back. And something so scary happened. My ex, who I lied, was my cousin, came to the house because he wasn't able to reach me. Luckily, I was the one who opened the door. This fool thought that because things between my boyfriend and I were going through a rough patch, he could come and find his way with me. Unfortunately for him, John heard his voice and rushed out. He ran for his life because the kind of rage John came out with was so terrifying that it scared even me. By the time he came back from pursuing my ex, he finally did it. He broke up with me on the spot. He said he doesn't want anything to do with me. I'm in tears as I'm typing. He told me that my lie about my past was emotionally draining, and it made him question everything about us and who I really was. He said that he couldn't be with someone who would hide such a fundamental part of herself just to fit into some image, and that he felt completely disrespected and deceived. He said he deserved honesty, not the version of me I'd chosen to present, and he walked out without looking back. I never thought one lie, one stupid panicked decision could destroy our relationship. Now I'm left here with nothing but regret, and I hate myself so much for it. Even Jenny blames me for lying to him and that I shouldn't blame her for accidentally spilling the truth, and sometimes I find myself asking if it was truly an accident or she's just hiding under that guise. My lies have cost me the one thing I cherish, and I've learned it the hard way. I'll guess I'll just have to start all over again, maybe this time with honesty. No more lies. Thanks for reading, everyone. I'm done updating here. I just hope life gets better.